Okay.
What's up, hybrids? Welcome back to another episode of the Fandom Hybrid Podcast. This is Hanako, and I am here with Michelle, and we are discussing the first episode of season 6 of Outlander. Welcome, Michelle.
Thank you. Hello, hello, hello.
Are we ready to get into it?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Well, I don't even know where to begin. Go ahead.
Okay, so let's begin with the fact that Starz puts on these 5-minute previews before you can even get to the episode. Starz, you don't have to sponsor. I pay for the subscription. Please give me my episode when I just press start. That's all I want to see. I want to see Jamie and Claire. I don't care about Shining Veil. I don't care about anything else that you have put on there. I'll probably look at those later, but when I click start or Outlander, I want to see Outlander. That's it.
Yes. I mean, it's been 2 years, so I don't need all the previews. I need you to get started immediately.
Exactly. And getting started with this episode was so hard for me this week. 1, my schedule was crazy. 2, I was sick for most of the week, so I couldn't even look at a TV. 3, when I did finally try to sit down and watch the episode, we've had really high winds here for the last 3 days. My internet kept going out. So it's like I'd watch 20 minutes and then it would stop and I'd have to wait. And then I start again, watch another 10, 15 minutes, and then it stopped. And then yesterday it just completely stopped. I couldn't get back to it. So I was like, I might as well go work and then just come back. So I was up watching the episode. Let's see, my daughter and I started watching the season finale from last season yesterday afternoon because she had not seen it. So when I finally got back to this first episode, it was like 1:30 in the morning. And then, of course, daylight savings happened, which I didn't even realize was happening this weekend until yesterday afternoon. So I'm looking at the TV, I'm like, oh, it's already 3 o'clock. Oh, my God. Oh, okay. So, yeah, it was like 3 something in the morning when I got finished. But it was worth it.
This was an extended episode, too.
It was.
81 minutes.
It was 81 minutes. And that threw me off too, because I was like, this episode seems kind of long. How many? Oh, that's why. So yeah, it's just trying to get used to all of this again. You know, it's been 656 days.
Yes, it has.
So let's get into the episode. First off, I can't think of a show that I've ever watched that had as long a cold opening as this one.
I know. I thought I missed the beginning.
No, because
maybe I was thinking maybe I missed something or accidentally hit the remote until I was like, okay, this has almost been 20 minutes. And now
the funny thing is, for me, beginning. I thought it was the old opening because when this episode starts, it starts with a Claire voiceover, and then it goes into what happened last season, and then it has the Skyboat song from last season. So I thought, oh, okay, so we're going with this one. Then we get, I don't know, maybe 15 minutes into the episode, and then the new song comes on. I was like, wait, what? It's almost like, you know what? That accounts for that 21 minutes. That first that cold open, that was the 21 minutes.
That was the 21 minutes. Okay.
That was the 21 minutes. Because now I think about it, yeah, that's probably what it was. But
now, how do you like the beginning? Not the cold opening, but the new.
You know, when I first heard it, I guess it was maybe about 6 or 7 weeks ago when it first released. I did not like it, not because it was bad, but because I'm not used to hearing that style of song or of singing. When I heard it last night, it didn't bother me as much. I was like, okay, I actually like it. You know, it's different. And sometimes we're so used to hearing things a certain way that it takes a while for us to kind of acclimate to something different. I'm not used to Gaelic folk songs. So it was weird trying to listen. And then a lot of those folk songs, you know, to our ears, sometimes the notes are off key, but that's just the way that those songs are sung. So again, it takes some getting used to, but I actually didn't mind it last night. I was like, okay, this is actually kind of nice.
Yeah, when I heard it last week, it was different from what we're expecting.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I thought about it again and thought, okay, kind of sounds like it could be like a love letter going back and forth between the male voice and the woman voice. And I'm like, okay, I can get with this.
Yeah.
And it's kind of maybe I'm hoping that it hints to how the season is going to be. Even though you would know more from the books. So
you know what?
I'm just a little nervous about a few things that we're going to talk about.
I know a little bit from the books, but again, it's been so long since I've read this particular book, that this show is based off of for this season, that I'm really going into this with kind of fresh eyes, because a little bit of it is different. Of course, the Christies coming in at this point is a little bit different from the way they came in. But let me just say, Tom Christie. So he was an unlikable character in the book, but not so much as you weren't so violently aggressive towards his character in the book. It was just kind of like he was annoying to me, at least to me. He was annoying. And of course, whenever you have religious zealots in the mix, that just irritates me anyway. So in the book, he was just kind of like that holier than thou type personality, thinking he was always, better or right because he was speaking on the word of God and blah, blah, blah. In this show, it's like it was amplified.
Yes, it was.
It was amplified.
Like rough around the edges. I mean, you can definitely tell this is the villain.
I don't even know if I want to call him a villain.
Well, not in that case, but I don't know. I just felt very uneasy. Like I said, the last episode, that the storm was coming. He's the storm. So, okay, I won't call him a villain, but he's the storm that's going to tear things up.
Yeah. The actor who plays him, Mark Lewis Jones, he's doing a great job of making me hate this character. He's doing a great job, because you see you can feel the conflict with these two characters, even from the beginning. The beginning of the episode, we go back to 1753. We go to Arsmere prison. This is right after Jamie, if you remember from, I guess that was season 3, 4, where he had his sister turn him in. So this is after that. He's just come to the prison. And of course, all of the people who followed him in the Battle of Culloden, they're there, and they're already treating him like their laird. They give him the nickname MacDo, and they basically treat him like that. And if you look at Jamie's attitude through this whole thing, or at least that part, he's just kind of like, look, I'm just here. I just want to be left alone. I just
want peace.
I just want peace. Like,
to do my time.
Just leave me alone.
But he's a natural leader, and you can see that in that they're all trying to follow him. And you can tell that bothered Christy a lot.
Not just that, Christy doesn't like the fact that they're Jacobites. He doesn't like the fact that they're stinking papists, as Williams. When he used the word papists, that's the thing me and Michaela went, stinking papists. But he doesn't like them at all. And it's so, you listen to Jamie's speech towards the end of the flashback when they have the big brawl. He's like, we're all Scots. Whether we're Catholic or whether we're, whatever, we're all Scots. We should be trying to get along. Like, y'all all there for, like, this makes me wonder. And I can't remember what the story is in the books. So if he's against the Papists or against the Jacobites, then what is Tom Christie in prison for? Like, why is he in that particular prison? If you weren't fighting with Culloden, or did he fight with, did he fight for Culloden just on principle? Like, I don't remember
I
that
think
part of
they,
the story.
and I think I may have read this, so that's why I think they did fight on the same accord, but they were just different on their beliefs on why they were fighting.
Okay. Because I'm like, you walking around high and mighty like you're better than everybody else,
and you're still in prison.
You're in prison too. So anyway, like I said, we're back in Artsmere. Jamie is has just arrived there not too long ago, and you get to see some old familiar faces. Like you get to see Leslie, you see Jordy, and I completely forgot about Jordy being. I think Jordy was on the ridge with them, and he was the one that was killed when Claire and Marsali were attacked. And I was like, was that the same Jordy? I didn't pay attention to the face.
I didn't either. And then when they mentioned it later, I was like, okay, I didn't put that together and I need to go back and look.
Yeah, because when he told Claire, when he rescues her in the season finale from last season, and she asked him about Marsali, and he tells her Marsali is okay. He's like, Jordy is dead. And I was like, Jordy. And then I see this episode and you see Jordy from the bookshop. I mean, from the print shop there in Ardsmere with him. And I was like, wait, did I miss that? Like, I need to go back and rewatch. I haven't rewatched seasons 4 and 5 in a while. So I need to go back and rewatch. But you see those familiar faces there. And it was nice to see them. We talked about this in our preseason show, like how we missed some of the older faces. Now, it would have been nice to see like some Rupert and Angus, but of course we didn't go that far back, so
we still have time.
This is true. But no, what I really wanted to see, I was like, if y'all are going to do an Artsmere flashback, why didn't we see our boy? Why is Godfather not there? I
know because it was it, and I'm like, he was in a prison.
So that would have been nice, but anyway.
And I want you when in the prison when he was getting his consequence for taking up for the blind prisoner, and he saw Claire. To me, Claire looked like current Claire, but that's just me.
Yeah,
look, because it had the gray, and I know that you wouldn't do that on purpose because she would not look like that the last time.
I don't think that was gray. I think it was like the lighting, because
I kind of paused and looked, but
because she has the white on and she's supposed to look kind of very ethereal because this is a figment of his imagination, and he makes the comparison to her later on that she's like an angel to him. So I think that was the look they were going for. So she was kind of glowy, not like overly so, because we're supposed to be looking at it the way that Jamie looks at it, and Jamie would look at her like she was there instead of it just being a figment of his imagination. But I thought they did good because, of course, that was that was a few years ago. So sometimes you can de-age a person, sometimes you can't. I mean, she still looks great.
She still looks great. So,
but it's obvious that she is not in her 20s anymore, or early 30s. So I think that's what it was. It was supposed to be like that glow.
Okay.
At least that's the way I took it. But I like, they did a lot of callbacks to that season when he woke up on the battlefield of Culloden, because if you, in the last episode, the season finale, they used that rabbit allegory that they did with Jamie when he was on the battlefield and he thought he was dying, and he saw Claire and the bunny, and you remember they used that all through that season, like with Brianna, and just it was supposed to be, I guess, a symbol of each other for them, and they brought that back in the last season. So I like the fact that they've been going back and forth to past seasons and pulling things to make them present in this season as well. Jamie in the prison, we also see this is the start of where he started, I guess, taking the dinners with the governor of the prison. And it's really interesting because this governor is very opposed to Jamie being there because, of
Very.
course, Red Jamie, he has a reputation. He is a known redcoat killer.
Known.
Like, he's famous. He's famous. And Jamie is just basically like, I don't want to be here. I don't care.
Basically said several times, I just want to just do this time, peace.
Yeah, that's all he wants.
That's it. He literally stepped away when they were fighting during their work session. He stepped away. He only came in because now you killing an innocent bystander who just wanted the lock of his Rebecca.
I know.
That's all.
Right.
So
let me tell you. So this scene where they're having the dinner, or they're, I guess, sitting in front of their dinner because Tom Christie refuses to eat. Jamie is looking at the food like, I don't want this. That whole scene was weird because I don't know why Tom has such hatred towards Jamie, but it's obvious he does. I don't know if he's jealous of him. I don't know, and I'm not thinking about the book story because, of course, they're going to do things a little bit differently for the show. They're probably going to tell the story a little bit differently. So I don't want to go into that whole in the book, because we have to treat this as a separate medium. So just looking at the story that they presented, we don't know why Tom has it out for Jamie. He just does, like, almost from the beginning. And I don't know if it was because of who Jamie was in the rebellion. He literally was at the right hand of Bonnie Prince Charlie. And, he commands the respect of his men. And even the governor said, I know that the men here respect you as a fighter, but we can't be having none of that. They can't treat folks like lords and lairds in this prison. Okay, whatever. They're still going to treat Jamie the way he is because
they are
who he is, And the other thing too, I think with Jamie is Jamie never had, even when he was at the right hand of Bonnie Prince Charlie, he never had that arrogance, like he was better than anybody else. Even when he was laird, he didn't have that attitude out of, oh, I'm better than everybody because I'm the laird. It was more so, I'm the laird, I have to take care of these people and we have to do it this way in order for it to be done. It was never, I never took it as, a sign of arrogance.
No, not at all.
And you
not even to currently. He has never been that way. No. So,
which makes him such a wonderful character. But anyway, but you see that in the prison too, because when the other James McCready, I think that was his last name, when he's, crawling around on the ground looking for the lock of his wife's hair, and Jamie doesn't know what he's there for at first, so he kind of grabs him. He's like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "I'm sorry, I've been slowly losing my sight. I'm just looking for such and such." And you see Jamie's face kind of soften. And then when he tells him, "Look, I'm just looking for the lock of hair. My Rebecca gave it to me," and his whole demeanor changes. And he literally crawls further down on the ground to get to James's level, even though he can't really see him. But he sits there and he counsels him and he gives him like some encouragement because James says he's beginning to forget his wife's face. Now, I don't know how long James has been there in the prison. I don't know how long it's been since he's been going blind. I don't know how long it's been since his wife has been gone, because his wife could have died before all of this. So we don't know how long he's been in that position, but Jamie gives him some encouragement. And you just kind of see this is why the men respect him.
Yep.
Because he puts himself on the same level with his men, and just like after they have the dinner with the governor says, okay, so for the little skirmish that they had earlier, we're going to give them harder work, except for you two don't have to do it. But you see, when they come back the next day,
and what did Jamie do?
Jamie was hauling boulders just like the rest. And Tom Christie's like, why are you doing this? The governor said not to. And James like, look, I'm just trying to get us out of here faster so that I can go spend my time in peace. I'm not trying to be out here all day.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not trying to be out here all day. I want to go sit inside and sulk and just be to myself.
And that's why the men respect him.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah.
And that's probably another reason why Tom Christie don't like him. Because all of those things were irritating him.
Mm-hmm.
That was happening, all of them.
Yep.
And especially when he saw Jamie's back, I think he was upset that Jamie took responsibility.
Yeah. For that piece of tartan.
Mm-hmm.
Which
and then
when old what was his name? Oh, Charlie, when he put it down, I was like, oh my God. Like, why does he have tartan? Because
I'm like, put it underneath him, put it in his hands. Don't just lay it on top of his chest.
Well, we have to remember old Charlie ain't all there. And he really thinks that he's Bonnie Prince Charlie. So he's just, but that's why Jamie picked him up, like, hurry up. But I'm like, y'all should have picked up the tartan. Pick it up.
Left it there.
Well, yeah. No. Or, I mean, and I guess I didn't understand this because Jamie didn't have to take the punishment because the soldier as much gave him an out. He was like, does it belong to him? I can't punish him now because he's dead, right? You should just say yes.
He did, but you already saw what Tom Christie was doing over the side. He almost like one of my students. He had that hand ready and it was about to point. He was ready to tell. Which he didn't have to. He didn't have to say anything either.
That's true.
But he's just like, you saw his hand come up and he was like, and then Jay was like, it was mine.
He just a hateful little something.
Mm-hmm. Very much so.
That poor man, just all he was trying to do was figure out which way to go because he couldn't see and they were fighting all around him. And then like, why was there punishment for Jamie, but there wasn't punishment for the person who killed him? Because they're prisoners. They're
prisoners. They didn't care. They're prisoners. So yeah, so Tom Christie didn't like him because he did that. He didn't like him when he saw his back because he believes that whatever caused that, he deserved because he must have did something wrong. So because he brings, you're gonna mention this, he brings it up again later, which I felt was rude and disrespectful. But we'll get to that.
The self-control that James Fraser exerts in this episode when it comes to that man is phenomenal. Because Tom Christie would have got punched. Mm-hmm. I would have been like, no, you and your family can't stay here on the ridge. Take your ass on. Go. I don't care that you are an RSM. You know what? Let me go back and with the exception of Thomas Christie. Yeah.
It was many times I was thinking, just say, you know what, this is not going to work out for us. I will help you in other ways and find you another piece of land, but this is not going to work.
Mm-mm. And I mean,
this is not going to work.
Do you see what I meant by saying the Christies are going to bring chaos? Because we're only in the first episode. Tom is just stirring the pot everywhere, and Alan with his old thieving set. Like, dude, first of all, how did you even get, like, where did you come across one of the Browns that you were able to steal his powder horn?
I was trying to figure that out too. And I'm like, what? I guess in their travels did they stop at Brownsville first before they got there? Probably so.
I guess. But problems.
Yeah, it's going to cause problems.
And Malva seems so sweet right now.
And not knowing what may come about, I was thinking, she's in the middle. You have dad on one extreme, the son on the other, and she's in the middle. She's going to be a reason of listening to Claire and Jamie and then listen to her dad and kind of deciding for herself.
I think that's a fair assessment because it's obvious that Malva and Alan, as much as they love their father, they do not, I don't think they agree with the way he teaches and the way he raises them. Like, they have questions, they make little side comments, about the way he's brought them up. And then you see the exchange once he finds out that Alan stole from the Browns. He has this, do you want to end up like your mother? No, good, because she's burning in the fires of hell for her.
Yes, and I'm thinking, and you say that to her children and out loud with other people can hear too.
This is the 1700s. This is the time when a man can still step on somebody else's land, the same man who your brother came in and attacked and stole the wife and raped the wife along with who knows how many other of his men, and you still have the audacity to walk up on that man's land like you got some authority. So yeah, men in that time, they don't care. Men,
but just the way he sounds like, well, damn, sir.
And I don't even remember. I believe they talk about how the wife died in the book, but I don't remember. But I do remember that he was in prison when he found out. I do remember that. I think
they mentioned it. I believe they mentioned it in the episode.
What, how she died?
Out, no, not how she died. That he found out she was dead when he was in prison.
Mm-hmm. I know that's the case, but I don't remember if that's. I can't remember if that's what happened in the books as well. But they haven't explained it yet. Maybe we'll hear. But
now we do, especially when you say she burned in hell. Well, I don't know what did she do?
Maybe she decided to move on when her husband got his ass locked up.
That's true. Found another man. I don't know.
But yeah, just the way that he treats his children, it's typical of that old mindset. Like, even when Malva tries to say something about when he hurts his hand and he has to go to Claire, and he's like, go check on Alan. She was like, but Dad, and he gives her that look like, what I say? And she's like, yes, Dad. And she goes. I'm just like, oh. See, it's going to be his treatment of his children that I think is really going to cause the greatest chaos. Mm-hmm. Because what happens with children like that who are not treated well by their parents, or who feel like their parents don't listen to them? They rebel.
Yeah,
they rebel, and they do things that will embarrass the parents, as we see Alan did. And I don't think he did that to embarrass his dad. I think he just did it because he saw something nice and he wanted it.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to think about his mindset. He knows his father is one of those fire and brimstone people. So you should have known that if you got caught,
that this is going to happen.
Mm-hmm. And his punishment, he really got off lightly.
He did, for stealing. Honestly, he did, because he did steal someone else's property.
Mm-hmm.
To be honest.
And Jamie was the one who took it upon himself to punish him. And Jamie is not going to be he probably did it as hard as he needed for show.
Yeah.
To make it look like, okay, he's being punished. And I'm sure Alan felt that sting. His little baby skin back probably has never felt that kind
of. But it wouldn't have felt like if his dad did it.
Right. Or if they had made him take his shirt off to get it done. That would have been worse. But Jamie already knows what that humiliation is like. He already knows what that punishment is like. Mm-hmm. And he wasn't about to subject Alan to that, especially considering Alan is new on the ridge. And also, I really feel like Jamie did that to spare Tom Christie the embarrassment. Even though they don't like each other, Jamie is all about honor.
Yep.
And there's nothing honorable in the way that Alan was to be punished, especially if he were to be punished at the hands of like Richard Brown.
Right.
Because we already know that family has no honor about them.
Yeah. And first of all, you're not going to come on my ridge and give someone else's punishment. I'm the leader. I'll take care of it. And now get off my land. It's been taken care of. We don't have any more issues.
He was lucky he got to stay on that land long enough to witness.
He did.
Because the moment you addressed Mrs. Fraser, I would have told what was it, Lieutenant McDonald or whoever the I can't remember his name, the red coat guy.
Mhm.
I would have been like, you know what? Excuse
He's
me.
there.
And yes,
So
that cold
just
open was 22. They started
you,
the credits at 22 minutes and 51 seconds.
okay, well, that was our extra time right
That was our
there.
extra
Extra
time.
time. But
Yep.
several times throughout this episode, they tried Jamie in different ways. They did.
I would say this maturity is a great thing.
Mm-hmm.
Because had you tried that 10 years ago, 20 years ago with a more hot-headed Jamie,
It would have went a different way.
it would have gone a completely different way.
Completely different way, especially when he walked in. So after we go through the prison and Tom Christie comes to the ridge and he goes in there with Brianna and
Roger.
Let me say one thing. I'm liking how Roger is looking right now.
Yes.
He looks like he belongs. That beard is filled out.
Mm-hmm.
I'm feeling Roger right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
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 Mm-hmm.
He looks like he belongs. So don't try Roger either. He's there. So when he comes
Roger done been to battle. He done killed a man before now. So
yes.
He's not the same. I don't feel like he's the same timid Roger from before. Like he still has a lot of who he is. But I think, especially with his minister background, he's going to give people the benefit of the doubt. But at the same time, I think he's to the point now where he's like, that's my father-in-law. Don't come in here being disrespectful, because he could tell from the moment Jamie walked in and saw Tom Christie, he was like, oh, wait a minute. This is not the situation that I thought it was.
No.
I thought you were a friend of Jamie's, but obviously from the way Jamie came in and looked, and he was like, well, there's a face I never thought I'd see again. It was like, oh, even Claire kind of looked like, oh. Claire was like, okay, what do we need to do? Where do we need to go? Like,
because everyone's looking at each other like, oh, we promised this man some meals and that he was welcome. But Jamie's right now, and you saw that moment, he was thinking like, okay, no. Oh, yes, anyone is welcomed here. But he was thinking about it.
Mm-hmm.
But you're right. 10 years ago, he would have been like, hell no. I'm sorry, this is not going to work out.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We don't like each other.
Mm-hmm. Like, why should I?
Right. I'll pack you a basket of food. We'll give you some clothes and I'll send you about your way.
Right.
So.
But I also think the fact that he mentioned his daughter and his son were with him.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, we don't know at this point how old those kids are. They could have been smaller. He could have had children later in life. And Jamie's not going to just leave the family out there because, again, like Tom Christie says, he had a pass to come because he used to be in Arsmere prison, but that doesn't necessarily, I guess, in his mind, extend to his children and the rest of the people that were with him. I'm guessing they were part of his flock or something. So,
mm-hmm.
He was humble for a tiny speck of a second. And that was it, just long enough to make Jamie be like, okay, I can't seem like an asshole by turning him out. Because he says, I come to you in humble gratitude. And then that's when Roger's like, because Jamie's face is like, gratitude for what? And Roger's like, yeah, so we made him some food.
Yeah.
And I offered him, a place to stay. And Jamie was like, he was looking like, Roger, you and I are going to have a talk later on. But I mean, the way he presented himself, and he has the paper inviting all of the people who served with him in Arsmere to come to Fraser's Ridge. So it's not like,
and you did not have an exception at the bottom saying, except Tom Christie and these fellow men. You didn't have that on there. And you didn't tell them the story about what happened. No. So
because why would he? That would kind of be, detrimental to what he's trying to do. He's trying to find him a place to stay. Right. Now, the fact that you have been extended this grace and are given a place to stay or given space to stay, and Jamie and his people are planning to build y'all cabins and doing all of this stuff, and you are steadily at every turn defying
Mhm.
and speaking against and just stirring the pot.
Yeah. Or even insulting, because like you're basically saying, "Ooh, I can't believe you have all this luck and this fortune, and basically I don't, but I know I'm better than you."
Right.
Just coming, but I just said you can stay here, and now you're throwing that in my face.
He just
Trying Jamie.
he got the wrong one. And let me tell you, once Claire finishes dealing with her PTSD and she's back to being Claire, it's not gonna happen. She's gonna be like, hold on, you're not about to talk to my husband. You know it's coming at some point.
Yeah, it
because
is.
Claire
And
is
she's going
Jamie's
through
ride
her.
or die.
But she's just going through her own things right now.
So I have feelings about that.
I do too.
So when we first see Claire, she's in the surgery, she's asleep, which is weird in and of itself because Claire does not sleep on the job. When Jamie goes to try to wake her up and she won't wake up, we were all like, wait. I was like, wait, they moved that, like they changed the whole way that happens because I told you, just like Jamie had a near-death experience in the last season, Claire has one in this season, I believe, or at least she did in this book. I think she caught some kind of, I guess it's like a virus or some kind of illness, and she almost dies. And so I thought when I saw this, I was like, so did they move that part up? Like, how are they going to do that? There was just so many things that didn't add up. And so when she wakes up and we find out that she's actually been trying to create anesthesia and that she's made like a certain, she's made the ether that's going to put them to sleep, and it'll put them in a deep sleep so that she can do surgery, whatever she has to do without them feeling any pain. I was like, oh, okay, that's interesting. Then when we see what she's using it for at the end, and I don't know if this is a consistent thing or if it was just because she had the nightmare, and the nightmare was literally a compilation of all her traumas over the last 20 something years. And she can't, I guess she wants to be able to go to sleep and not think about that stuff, not see that stuff. Because like Jamie said, Richard Brown showing up on the ridge kind of triggered that. So
she's been suppressing it. She's been suppressing it. And she basically is doing what Brianna's saying is, we're asking you, you're okay. And you're like, you're okay, but you're really not okay.
Yeah.
And you do have someone to speak to. So you're just pushing it down. Well, seeing the Browns, that triggered. And then those nightmares and all your past trauma. I hate that she was self-medicating. However, I mean, I can understand.
I can, but to me, I guess in a way it feels out of character for her.
It does. It does.
Especially after in the season finale, when Jamie was talking to her after all of this happened, she was like, no. She was like, I have been through this. I have been through that. You mentioned it in the preseason show when we talked about it. Claire's been through all of this stuff. And like she said, I survived. I'm supposed to let this get me down? No, I refuse. So for her to have that mindset, and then for us to see her, like you said, self-medicating, for me, it felt very out of character for her. But I guess if you really think about it, that's not an unusual trauma response.
Right. And that's what I was going to say. It's out of character from other people looking at her because she's so strong, and you don't expect her to do that. If you expected someone to do that, well, that would be Brianna to do it. But you don't expect Claire. I'm just saying, if you had to pick.
I don't even know if I would say Brianna would do it, because Brianna is she's Claire and Jamie's daughter.
She's Claire, but I'm saying if you had to choose, you wouldn't have chosen Claire to be the one to do it.
No.
And sometimes we see that's a lot of times when people say the strong people check on them because they walk around, I can handle this, I can do it, I can handle this, and I can do it. And slowly they are falling apart. And that's trauma.
Right. And I think maybe for her, she really did think that she was kind of handling it well, because even when she's going to do her check on Marsali and Jamie is accompanying her, she's like, are you going to accompany me to every, house visit that I do now? Jamie like, yep.
Yes.
Like, we're not about to have a repeat of what, because Richard Brown is still out there, and he did make a threat that, you know, you handled it in your way, and I'm going to handle it in mine when the time comes. We don't know what he's planning on doing. He may decide to attack Claire again just out of revenge for his brother's death. We don't know what he's capable of. We don't know what he plans to do, even though he seems to be the more reasonable of the two Brown brothers. We saw that in the last season, but still, that was your brother, whatever wrong he did. And like I said last night when I was watching it with my daughter, you know, back in those days, killing someone for raping a woman, that's not a suitable punishment, because the rape of a woman is not consequential to them. You know, it's just kind of like, oh, that's what happens. But you killed my brother, I'm gonna get you.
Right.
Excuse me, do you know what you're like? When Jamie said a group of men attacked my land or came upon my land, they kidnapped my wife and they violated her. He didn't say he said they, meaning the group of men. Honestly, when Jamie walked out and Richard Brown made that threat that, you know, I'll get my revenge or whatever the case was, I would have turned around. I would have been like, oh, take two, kill them all. I mean, because, you know, at some point, leaving him alive is going to come back and bite him.
It's going to come back, yes. And he didn't come after them right away, only because Jamie brought his brother to him.
Right.
For proper burial. That's it. So they're just biding their time until they figure out their attack.
Yep.
But going back to Claire, I think she did thought she was handling. I'm like, I'm handling it. And then when she, again, it just triggered, because she couldn't even stand there. As soon as the Browns pulled up, she turned right around and ran right into that house.
After he spoke to her.
Yeah.
Like the audacity. And I guess in some ways I would say, okay, at least he had enough manners to address her, because that is her land, you know, and it is proper for you to address the owners of the land. You address the landowner, you address his wife. But still, this is the same wife that your brother kidnapped. You shouldn't utter a word. You could have just tipped your hat or done something like that. But to address her the way he did. And with a little, I would say he had a little contempt in his voice.
He did. Maybe
not a whole lot, you know, not enough to be seen as outwardly disrespectful. But I felt like there was some contempt there.
It was. Because it was just total disrespect of how you came onto the land anyway. So he already knew, and he didn't care. He didn't care. So
I just hope we don't have to deal with the Browns the rest of this season. I mean, I know we only have 6 episodes in this season, so we only have 5 left, but I don't want to have to deal with them. Like, please get them out the way. We have other important things to focus on, like where this Christy storyline,
where this is going. Where this is going.
Because I'm just waiting for the shoe to drop. I'm just waiting to see how they're going to do this. And I have a feeling they may not get to it in this season, but if they're doing all of the episodes extended, we may see some of that come into play. But I'm just sitting here like, I'm waiting, because this is about to be a powder keg.
It is. It's about to be a powder keg. I know we're jumping around, but especially when Jamie went to him and said, okay, now, if you're going to be here, we got to follow my law. There's only God's law. And I'm thinking, again, this is time to kick him out, because I haven't officially built anything.
My thing would have been like, okay, so if you only follow God's law, then God can go build you a cabin on his land, because you can't have one.
Okay. But that's the same where when he was getting help from Claire and Jamie was offering him something to drink, he's like, I can't drink. And then he was like, oh, okay, I got you. I mean, there is wine in the Bible. So, right. He quoted some scripture. You can have. Catholics can read. Here you go.
And in English.
Right. So he finally was like, okay, I will sip on the wine, because this actually does hurt.
Right. And he wasn't sipping. He was like, I was like, oh yeah, Tom Christie has the capacity of being a lush if you don't watch him, because he was, for a man who was opposed to taking a swig of the devil's juice, he was drinking quite heartily.
Yes. He's gonna start hanging out with Fergus. Okay, go ahead and start talking about him, because I don't know what happened again in the book, but I was kind of disappointed when they kind of led that he could be abusive. That bothered me.
I think that's the assumption that they did make. I don't think he actually went so far as to abusing Marsali. He may have grabbed her hand like to keep her from walking away, but I don't think.
Okay.
I think even in the book, I don't think he was being abusive.
Okay.
He's just and I saw it in the previews, in the promo, the trailer for this season. So I'm not saying a spoiler, but he feels kind of responsible for the attack on Claire and Marsali. He feels like he should have been there. He should have been able to do more to prevent it. And just like in this episode when he's sitting there drinking and Lizzie makes the comment to I think it was Josiah she was talking about, and she was like, yeah, I need you guys to help me take this stuff to the table because two hands are better than one. And I don't think she meant it in that way. She was saying two people, like
more help,
y'all are better than just one of you because we can take more things. But of course Fergus is in his feelings. He's drunk. He's perpetually drunk in this episode. And he takes it the wrong way, and you can kind of see part of what he's struggling with, and like I said, I have a feeling it's going to go a lot deeper in this season. It's going to get more emotional for Fergus and for everyone around him. I think as they start to realize what's going on with him, I'm not ready for this storyline. I'm not, because there are some things that happen, like I mentioned. I believe this is the part of the story where Henri Christian is born, and he is born with dwarfism. So that's going to also kind of, that's going to affect Fergus's mood as well. Because, back then in those days, everything having to do with the children has to do with the male, whether a female or except for, if a female or a male is born, that's all the female's fault.
Right. Or if you can't have kids, that's the female's.
That's the woman's fault.
Yeah.
But, Fergus, I think, in the book with Henri Christian, he loves his son, but he does take it kind of personally, like this might be a punishment to him because he didn't protect Marsali when they got attacked. Because remember, she got knocked out, she fell on her stomach.
Yes,
we don't know if that has something to do with his developmental issues or if it was always like that. Dwarfism was kind of common back then, but like I said, when you have births like that in those times, they either abandon the children or the children would, the babies would, kind of sort of turn up dead, just out the blue.
Disappear.
So I think we'll see a lot of Fergus's journey in this season. And I see they're starting it off like, oh, he's just like completely
I know. And I wasn't prepared for it because you talked about it in our last talk, and I guess I wasn't ready. I thought we will see that slow decline. I didn't know we were entering the decline already.
Right.
I thought I would just see it over the season and, the baby and everything that we discussed. But then to start off with the episode and he's not really home, and then she has abuse on her arm. And then when he comes in, he's drunk, and it seems like he's been drunk all the time. And they're having marital issues. I was like, okay, I'm the one prepared for this episode.
I wasn't.
For their relationship issues and his issues. I wasn't.
And they're one of my favorite couples. So this especially hurts because I know what Fergus is about to go through. And I'm just like, y'all could have eased us into this. This is not easy. Like y'all brought him in the first episode like a full-fledged drunk with his cute little goatee and his little facial stuff. I was like, oh, okay. Fergus looking kind of, he's drunk. Because when he came out of the woods and I saw him stumble,
Yeah.
I thought he was being playful at first, and then the more I looked at him, and I said, "Oh, we are
No, he's been drinking
already."
Mm-hmm. He's been drinking, and it has to be bad. When Marsali had to hold him in the other room, he's like, "Well, I can't go in there with the other." No, you just need to sit down and eat something.
We need to put some food on your stomach.
Food in your stomach. You need to eat something. Because you can't go in with everyone else. Not right now. No.
But I need him to get it together. Because when you want to talk about ride or die females, Marsali or Fergus from day one, she will fight for him. He needs to get it together.
Mm-hmm.
He needs to get it together. He needs to be there for them children. And I'm not ready for this because now I feel like we're getting his, like, the culmination of everything with him in this season.
Mm-hmm. In this season,
I'm not ready because it's gonna be an emotional ride. It's gonna be draining. It's gonna be heartbreaking. But if I remember correctly in the books, he does get better. I just don't know how. I just don't know, like, how they plan on doing it for the show, like how long this is going to drag out. Or I don't even want to say drag out because that sounds like it's not supposed to be there. It's a different type of character. Yeah, it's a different type of character development for Fergus, because Fergus has always been like jolly, happy-go-lucky, very sunny disposition, even in the bad times. He's always had this kind of way of looking at the brighter side of things and not letting things get him down. Like, even when he lost his hand, you would think at that point he would be pissed, and he found a way to turn it around. He was like, I'm a man of leisure now. You told me that if I ever lost an ear or a hand in your service, you would take care of me for life. So this is a good thing. Mm-hmm. He says it to Claire when she asks him what happens to his hand when she reunites with him. He was like, I lost it fighting the Redcoats. He didn't expand on anything else than that. He didn't say that, I was teasing them. I was getting on their nerves. I led them on a chase and, I pissed them off. Yeah, no, he was fighting the Redcoats because he was protecting Jamie from them. So he's always had this really bright way of looking at things. And to see that challenged now and in such a, because think about it, the last season when we saw Fergus, even though, yes, he was defending Claire, he was still Fergus.
Right. And I was going to bring that up because the actor who was playing him did a phenomenal job, because when I was watching this episode, I was thinking, is this the same actor because of how he's carrying himself? Because the last episode, when, they're killing the Browns,
he's standing straighter. He's a lot more confident. He's just, he's like, oh, when Jamie says she is taking a vow, I kill for her. And then Ian says, so do I. Versus like, as do I, milady. He's like, look, I'm ride or die. That's my mama. I'm gonna do whatever. He has that confidence. He has that bravery, and to see him go a complete 180, it's just so heartbreaking.
It is.
But Fergus is gonna pull through. I know it. He has to. It's Fergus. He has to.
Okay, you give me some hope.
He has to.
It may be the end of this season or next.
I hope it doesn't go until next season. I hope not, because I can't deal with that. Like, I've said this from the beginning. Fergus is my baby. Like, even in the books, when they first meet him as a kid, that was my baby. When he grew up and he was still loyal to them, and they're his parents, that's my baby. When Jamie gave him his last name at the wedding because he didn't have one of his, that's my baby. Y'all can't drag Fergus through the mud forever. It just, I can't take it. I can't. No. So they better fix it. But since we're talking about couples, let's go to Jamie and Claire, because we have not had a love scene from them quite like the one we had in this episode. And
Yes,
it was beautiful, but I was
it
like,
was.
wow, this is long.
I thought so
We
too.
haven't because we haven't had such an extensive love scene with them in seasons. Like everything has been kind of quick or yeah, like you've had the barn scene at at River Run, and we've had a couple of things here and there, but not to this degree. It's been a while, and it's nice to know they still have it.
It does. It is,
because I had to look away from my screen like, oh, that's a little too intimate for me. Like
I did too. I was like, hey, we're seeing a lot today.
Yeah, like I feel like a voyeur. Like, no, let me turn around.
And then it was especially sensitive because I don't know if this was her first time after or where this lies in their intimacy. So it was like, okay.
Looking at the way he's looking at her, I would say it probably was.
I thought so too.
Because he approaches her very
because he's tenderly. Not actually, she is, I'm not trying to say the aggressor, but she's initiating it a little bit more. And he's just sitting back like, okay.
Like, I'm just going to see where this goes. But yeah, I think that because even when he's starting to undo her nightgown, he's doing it slowly. And he's looking her in her face, like trying to gauge her reaction. Like, okay, are we doing this or not? Or is she kind of feeling her way? Like, is she trying to see how far she can go, or how, he's looking to her for cues like, okay, wherever this goes, I'm good. He just wants to make sure that she is okay. So that made it all the more intimate.
And it's just to show their relationship, their connection, to each other.
Yep. But like I said, we haven't had one of these scenes in quite a long time. So it was nice to see him. Like I said, it was a little bit extended. And I was just like, oh, we're getting like the full scene, the full intimacy, the full, like, okay, this is kind of like, in a way, her, not necessarily her healing, but I think it's the start of her healing, because she went through something very, very traumatic. And I don't know how long this has been. I don't know what the time jump is. We do know that there is a time jump because, of course, you look at her skin is flawless as always. So she doesn't have the bruises. She doesn't have any remnants of what happened to her. So it had to have been at least a few months, I would think.
Yes, but then you can tell by when they start off on the ridge where there's a lot of, their homes and his stable with the horses built and everything. So it had to be some time.
Yeah.
So it had to be some time. But the one thing I was saying about their little scene together, he understands and she understands because he has gone through that and she's been there with him.
Absolutely.
So I just think about that, and that how you felt in that situation, so how she feels,
right? Because and it's actually a little bit different because Jamie was basically like, no, kill me. I'm not living with it. Kill me.
She had to work with him. He basically was. He had given up on life. So
because he was like, I can't get over this, and she had to, like you said, work with him. She had to do it a little more forcefully because she was like, look, you are not about to die on me. This is something that we will work through. But she did it for him, and I think that lends itself also to their relationship, and even with Bree has been through that as well. Not to the extent that Claire has, but she knows what that's like. I was thinking about what she said, what the conversation she and Roger had in the last episode when he was asking her about Claire, and she was like, he said, has she talked about it? And she said, I don't think she ever will. Maybe she'll tell Dad someday. And Roger said, what was the quote? He said, to have to string together the words to talk about something so horrible. He said something to that effect, like, how do you do that? And he was looking at Brianna because he remembers that she had to do that. You know, even though he found out first from Jamie and Claire because of the situation with him being gone, but still to have to, like, how do you even begin to describe that?
Yeah.
You know? So, but yeah,
And
I have a feeling.
that's why she is still trying to handle things and deal with it the best that she can.
Yeah.
And right now she's not ready to include anybody right now. She wants to do it on her own right now.
Yeah. Because the other thing too is once she tells Jamie, he's probably going to get mad all over again, and there's no one left for him to kill because they got it. They got everybody except for what's his name, Wendigo, the one dude who was from
who didn't help.
Who didn't help, but he got the hell on. He was like, "Yeah, I'm not about to be a part of this."
But she told Jamie he did not help.
So yeah, if they ever come across him again, yeah, hopefully he found some gemstones, and he found those stones, and he can go back to whatever time he came from, 1960s, 1970s, whatever. Because yeah, no. Let's see.
Oh, another one about, okay, so the colonel asked Jamie if he would be the representative for the Native Americans, and he was like, no, I'm not going to do it. And then the next person is supposed to be
Richard Brown.
And I'm thinking, how you go from Jamie to Richard Brown? I mean, really? So I understood clearly when Jamie said, if it's between me and him, I will take the job. There's no way that this man can be a representative for the Native Americans. He probably will kill them.
But I'm going to be honest, I think McDonald probably told him Richard Brown to get that kind of reaction. Because if you look at the two men, even if you're not intimately familiar with them, you can see that those are two different type of men. They conduct themselves differently. They treat their people differently. It's just two different things. One thing about Jamie Fraser that everybody knows, Jamie is about honor and he's about loyalty. Okay. I would say honor more so than the loyalty, because he fought for the Redcoats in this last battle. He wasn't loyal to them, but he had to do that to make sure that everybody on the ridge was taken care of. So the honor part is really Jamie. Richard Brown may have a little bit of that to a certain degree. He has it when it comes to his family, but that's probably about it. That's probably about it. And the fact that he is the leader of this safety committee,
that's a joke.
And like I said, you know the type of person he is as opposed to the type of person Jamie is. If Jamie is digging in his heels saying, I'm not doing this, I'm out of this, I don't want any part of it. And McDonald told him, yeah, well, I'm gonna go to Brownville. You know, we're gonna go to Brownville for a few days. And he was like, oh, but I'll be back because I'm not done with you yet. Like, I'm gonna come back and still try to convince you. So you see Richard Brown, and you probably have heard about what happened with the Browns and the Frasers. What better way to manipulate Jamie into doing exactly what you want him to do? Put his rival as the replacement or the top choice. Oh, if you don't do it, yeah, you know what? That's fine. Because Richard Brown, I'm going to go ahead and appoint him. And then Richard Brown just all of a sudden shows up. I don't know if that was the plan or if it just happened to work in his favor.
It worked in his favor. He was probably in the back like, thank you.
Right.
Thank you. You're showing your ass. Keep going. Keep showing your ass. This is going to help me. This is definitely going to help me get Jamie. Thank you.
Right. But I mean, that's a great way to manipulate Jamie into doing what you want him to do. And you really didn't have to do any work. All you had to do was mention the name. Richard Brown. Oh, okay. No.
So
I'm looking at Fergus's drunk behind in this. And the way Tom Christie is looking at him like,
yep, he was. He was looking at him like, he's out of order, and he was. He was out of order. So,
and he's probably trying to figure out too, like, who is this Frenchman to Fraser?
Yeah.
Like, who is he that he would speak to him in that way? Like Jamie spoke to Fergus like a dad. He was like, look, you might need to lay off the alcohol and take your ass home and spend some time with your family. As only a dad can do.
Yes. So,
but yeah, I'm looking now in the background, and Ian and Alan are going hunting, and it's right before again the Browns show up, shooting at them, talking about, oh, I thought you were in.
And that's what I said. And we're supposed to believe that he will be a great representative of uniting the Native Americans. Really?
Especially since you think the Native Americans are the ones that's going around setting fires to stuff. And I do remember that was a big thing in the books too. I can't remember exactly how that played out, but I do remember that one of the things that happens is Jamie and Claire, I believe I don't know if they were going to River Run. They were coming back from somewhere. They were on a trip and they came across a burned down cabin, and there was actually people inside that had been killed. So, and this had been going on like throughout the ridge and throughout the mountains and in different settlements. So I know that they were blaming the Native Americans. I don't remember if it was actually them doing it or if somebody else was doing it. I don't remember that part of the story. I do need to go back and reread the book, but I just don't know when I have the time to do that.
Well, they also burned down the mill too, because
the Browns did that.
Did they?
Yeah, they did that. They burnt down the still in order to get all the men away from the ridge when they went to go kidnap Claire.
Okay, I forgot about that. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, that was Lionel Brown and his men.
Okay, I do remember that now.
Yes. So again, Richard Brown, Safety Committee, Native American. No,
I don't know. It's not working.
No. And you could tell, like, just his facial expressions alone, you could tell he was like, I don't want to be here. I don't want to be dealing with these people. If I had my choice, I'd just shoot them all. I think he has respect for Jamie, again, because of what Jamie did in bringing his brother's body home.
And that is it.
And that's it.
That's it.
Because I think he wants to kill Jamie right now. He's like, yeah, you know what? My brother is dead. It's your fault. Even though your brother was the one who trespassed on my land, just like you trespassing on my land now.
Again.
So yeah,
that's going to be interesting too. So that basically means that Jamie's going to get it from both sides. You got Richard Brown and you got Tom Chris. And in between there, he's going to have to also realize that Fergus needs some help and Claire needs some help.
And the American Revolution is coming up.
Yes, because I think we have, wasn't it 74?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we have this.
73. 73.
Was it 73? Okay, so we have 3 years.
Mm-hmm. It's so
funny you can hear the story.
We were watching it.
And
it came up North Carolina, 1773. Michaela just looked, she started laughing. She was like, I hate you. I was like, what did I do? She said, I looked at the date. She said, and in my mind, I'm 1776 because of Hamilton.
Right. But I did the same thing. And even though I have to do that for my job too, I was thinking the same thing. And I would start a few times I was singing. And then I love the references throughout when they're like, okay, you're going to make tea or coffee or whatever you can find. So you already know about the taxes and the tea. So I was like, okay.
Yep. And Claire even, she was like, I'm going to go, I wish I had some tea, bloody taxes, and yeah. And the little conversation that Brianna and Roger had when they were talking, that she was like, hey, whose side are you on? And he was like, remember your mother and I were on the losing side. But then when he was talking about the American Revolution, he said, what would America be?
Look like
What would America look like if they hadn't gone through this war? Michaela was like, because I was like, let's not go there, because things could have been better. Things could have been way worse. It's just, because we got problems now. It's 2022. But we won't go into that. We won't go into politics today, but
nope.
It's there's a lot of references made to this one, and it did call to mind some things, like she said. Once she said it, I couldn't get it out my head. Like, oh, okay, yeah, I'm gonna be thinking about this the whole season. I'm gonna be, singing Hamilton. And it's funny because if you remember a couple of seasons ago, they actually met. Was it George Washington? I think they met.
Yes, at a party. They did. They did.
Or at the theater or something like that. Yeah,
they did.
So, yeah, are we going to see Alexander Hamilton pop up in Outlander? I don't know. But Jamie has a way of getting himself in some pretty high circles, even when he doesn't want to. He finds himself around some fairly prominent people.
He does all the time.
So who knows? We might see some more founding fathers through the course of this, season. But I'm looking at the part Tom Christie just walked out talking about Jamie's lashes. And Jamie's like, by God, he's a stiff-necked bastard. I was like, you should go punch him. Yeah. You should go punch him.
Because even Claire was looking like, that is so rude. I mean, really? Only because you saw my weakness. So you just throwing
stones. Yeah.
Or knives. You just picking. You picking. And sometimes,
like Jamie said, he was probably mad because I stood here and watched him in pain.
Like, are you in pain? You need some more wine?
Right. Like, you might as well go ahead and let her fix you up. She could do it. And, that was something else I noticed in the last episode when Claire and Jamie were standing on the porch. They were talking about the storm that's coming. And Jamie went to grab her hand like this. I noticed they still had the, you could still see the incision mark from when his hand was split open by Blackjack Randall, and Claire fixed it. I noticed that. I was like, oh, that's really good attention to detail, because I completely forgot about the fact that his hand was messed up, because you don't see it bothering him. You know what I'm saying?
About that too.
Yeah. Because remember, Blackjack Randall smashed 2 of his fingers, and Claire literally had to put his bones back together and splint his hand up. But yeah, you can see the little scar running down his middle finger.
You have to go back and watch that episode.
I'm like, okay, yeah, she can go and fix you up, because his hand is all like this, and like, what again? What did you do? What was that? Arthritis? Was it an injury?
And it looks like something could have happened, and he refused to get help, or
probably
do what he's supposed to do, like he's doing now, when she's literally saying, I can help you, I can fix this. And you keep denying.
Yeah.
Like, dude, just get the help. It's okay.
He don't want that woman touching him. He don't want that kind of, that weird, that whatever.
Right. God will understand. Get your hand fixed. So you can build your church.
Right.
Help. Just get the help.
Right. Okay, so something else happened in this episode that I'm going to touch upon, because so we don't really see much of the Bugs in the series. The Bugs, Mr. and Mrs. Bug, are the older gentlemen and woman who live on the ridge with Claire. You know what I'm talking about? The rearranging of the table, where she comes in and she puts things one way, and Lizzie is looking like, no, this goes over here better. And we're going to put this here. And then when Lizzie walks out the room, she comes back and she puts it backward. I was like, okay, so they're about to go into this whole Mrs. Bug is the busybody. And there's an interesting story with the two of them, with the bugs, as far as how it plays into the larger story. I don't know how much they're going to touch upon that, but the fact that we've seen more of Mrs. Bug in this episode than we have in the whole series tells me that they're probably going to bring some of their story into play as well. Okay. So that's going to be interesting too. I can't wait to see what they do from the books and what they bring to this, because when I tell you, I'm waiting for those discussions. I'm waiting for you to see and waiting for, I'm just waiting for it.
Okay.
Because it's going to be interesting.
Lizzie, right? Especially Lizzie and her relationships.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Oh,
I got a hint about it. No, I don't. I just got a little hint about it. So I'm kind of seeing it. And I'm like, okay, my mind is going to go different places until I actually see it. So we will see.
Yeah, that's an interesting story. That's an interesting
However,
story.
it is time for her to find the love of her own on the ridge. That sounds like a novel on Amazon. In 1773, Lizzie will find a love of her own on the ridge.
There you go. There you go. Yeah, Lizzie is she's an interesting, very interesting character. So yeah, that's
we'll see what happens. A little side note of something I read, and I want you to see if you can pay attention or notice it if you rewatch the episode, about the location of Jamie's stables and Claire's operating room.
Okay.
The director said how they set things up. They're in a direct line of eyesight.
Oh,
to kind of go with the things that he was saying in the beginning of the episode, like how he was following her different places, is there so he can keep an eye on her. And then she can also keep an eye on him. They're direct eyesight of each other. And I read that, and that was from the I don't know if it's the producer or the director, because they had little notes after this episode.
Yes, I did not watch those yet because I wanted to.
Not on. Someone sent it on Facebook, and I'm not sure which group it was. And I just read a couple of them, and one was about just the stables and her operating room are in eyesight of each other.
I did see that post. That's probably in the Sassenach Sisterhood group. I did see the post. I didn't read it though, because I wanted to talk about the episode before I read anything else, like I always do, because sometimes I'll read something and I'll be like, oh, I said that when we talked about it, but I don't want it to be like, I don't want their insight or their input to kind of influence how I look at the episode.
Exactly. So that's why I stopped. I read that and then I stopped.
And you were like, nope.
And was like, okay. And I'll read the rest after we're done.
But that's interesting, but it does make sense, because especially after what happened and how violent it was. Yeah, Jamie is probably like, it's going to be very hard for Jamie to leave Claire alone again. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense. But yeah, Richard Brown is pulling up to the house now, and Claire is looking at him, and Jamie is looking at her, and to see how she reacts. And she's looking back and forth between Jamie and Richard. And then when he says Mistress Fraser, she was like,
she takes him.
She was like, fuck you. And she goes in the house. But this episode had a lot. But
81 minutes.
I know.
So we needed it for it being 2 years, because a lot of shows where they have that break, and sometimes it's not a break because of COVID, it's just a break. And we get that first episode afterwards. Sometimes it's lacking. This episode to me wasn't lacking.
It wasn't lacking, but I felt like, I think I could kind of feel that it should have been split into like two separate episodes, because there was so much going on. that at first when I watched it, I was kind of like, I didn't know how to feel about it because it just felt, I don't know, the flow of it felt weird to me. But watching it in the background now, I realized that it's because the episode is so long, they were able to get more in the episode. So it's just a matter of, I mean, it's basically the length of a small movie.
I'd say a small movie.
So I think just having to watch it in that sense and just kind of be like, oh, okay, it's not dragging. It's just two like smaller episodes put together. And now we just have to kind of, I have to kind of fix my mind on that. Like, wow, this is actually a lot.
It is. Cover. And it seems like it's, a setup too, because I like the fact that they started with the prison first before introducing Tom Christie, because when he comes on that screen, you realize, okay, you guys are being very nice to him. I don't think you may want to wait.
Right. And so then I think you also have to realize when you see him come up on the screen, you already know about the animosity between him and so it's
you're just watching it like, okay, what's going to happen? And first of all, let's talk about how you're going to roll up anyway. I'm sorry, you come up on the ridge and then you really knocking like, somebody please come open this door. I'm sorry. I just looked at how he knocked. I mean, he didn't do that nice knock like, oh, anybody home? Or
right. Very forceful. And then when Roger comes out, he has the nerve to say, and who might you be? You standing on my doorstep. Excuse you? Yeah.
So I was like, well, excuse me.
Yeah. And Roger was very nice. I might ask you the same thing since you're the one knocking.
So you can't say you coming all humble because you didn't come up to that door humble. So again, it's just feeding us, of making us feel a certain way about him, which I already can tell there's going to be a lot of issues.
Yeah. Because when he first pulled up on the ridge, when they have that shot of him walking and the house is in the distance, we already know, like I said, there's, a very antagonistic relationship between the two. So it's kind of like you're looking like, oh, so why are you here on the ridge? Like, y'all don't like each other. You don't like him. He doesn't like you. Why are you here? So you already know, oh, okay, he's about to ask, can he stay on the ridge? And he's going to have to humble himself a little bit to do it. But you already know, oh, yeah, this about to be some shit.
Right. Just how he approached the house, how he was speaking to Roger. You're like, okay, yeah, I know what you're about. So definitely know what you're about. However, another funny part was when he was with his flock and they were praying. And Jamie just walks up and starts talking like, and I don't even know what he said, but I was just thinking, okay.
Because Tom Christie was talking about how we're going to show them what good God-fearing folks can do. We're going to do this and we're going to build a church. And Jamie was like, a church?
I didn't get that memo.
Right. Like,
when did y'all have that discussion?
Have you guys even ever built a cabin? Oh, okay. So I'm about to show you how we do things here on the ridge.
But it was just so funny. They walked up, he straight, like Roger wasn't going to interrupt, but he straight interrupt like, oh, okay. I didn't get that memo about church. I'm sorry you were in prayer. However, I just thought it was funny. I was like, okay.
It's about to be some mess on the ridge.
They're about to be messy. That's okay. But again, overall, I really did enjoy the episode. I really thought for it being the episode that we see after 2 years, for me, I was fine with all the things that they put in the episode. And that
they did a good job of introducing the Christies and still showing us that there is still, conflict with the Browns and, everything in between, because we got to see a little bit of just the daily life of, the people on the ridge and how they are doing. And, it's just, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be very, very interesting. Like I said, the Christies are going to cause some chaos and I'm ready to see it.
Yes. And every time when I watch the next episode and the episode after that, I'm going to have to prepare myself.
Yes.
And get ready. But us talking about the Christies in the past and the last episode, and even at Dragon Con, they did do a great job showing their essence of what I've kind of heard about. I haven't heard what they have done. I just kind of heard that they're an interesting family. So they did a great job putting that on screen for me. So now I kind of feel how you guys are sitting there feeling about this family.
And I can tell you now, you are not prepared.
No, I know.
You are not prepared. Because you can think, okay, I think I know what's gonna happen, blah, 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 this, that, and the other. Girl, you ain't ready. You are not ready. Like I said, this is gonna be fun to talk about. It's gonna be fun. But I need Fergus to sober up.
Yes.
I hope they don't make Claire an addict to this ether stuff.
No.
I don't think they would, because again, that's so out of her character. Her having to use it the one time because of the nightmares. Okay, I get it. I mean, people nowadays, when you have nightmares, you take a swig of a drink or, you know, something to calm your nerves, that sort of thing. If she can go to sleep and not think about anything, then yeah, that might be a good thing for her too. So I need Fergus and Marsali to get it together. And Marsali, I mean, she's heavily pregnant, about to give birth at any time. She's already taking care of the 3 kids they have, and then having to take care of an adult child too, because he doesn't want to get his act together. She doesn't deserve that. She doesn't. Marsali has been so vital to the Fraser family and to Fergus in general. She doesn't deserve it. So I need Fergus to get his act together. And Roger and Brianna, you know, we didn't see a lot of them in this episode. Like, we saw them, but it wasn't, it was just kind of fluff for them, which I guess is great, because that means there's no drama going on with them.
They have peace.
Great. They have some peace. Yes.
You know, they're helping out the single mother, you know, built her cabin. And no, we need them to have peace right now.
But Brianna is feeling a little bit, I think, unfulfilled, because she has things that she wants to do for the Ridge, but she's afraid because of what happened to Claire. You know, Claire was attacked because Lionel Brown saw the Dr. Rollins kit in her surgery, and he figured out that she was the one who was actually writing the Dr. Rollins things, which again was an accident, because Fergus took the wrong piece of paper to do the broadsheet for Men to Fight on the Ridge, which, you know, now that I think about it, that could also be part of his guilt, you know, because they realized, because remember when it got printed, they told him, hey, did you grab a piece of paper? Because this is Claire. And if she has told Jamie that that's what happens, and Jamie might have mentioned it, not thinking about it, Fergus could be feeling guilty about that too. Because if he hadn't have made that mistake, or if that piece of paper hadn't been printed, then Lionel Brown would have no reason to be so inflamed about seeing Dr. Rollins here. He could have asked, oh, who is Dr. Rollins? She could have been like, oh, he was a doctor I used to work for, something like. She could have played that off. But no, he had read the advice column that Dr. Rollins printed, you know, the one telling women how to keep from getting pregnant, basically telling women about birth control, telling women about, oh, you don't have to sleep with your husband if you don't want to, that, you know, just things that are radical for them, you know, which is kind of commonplace for us now. Like, birth control is not, well, I'm not going to say birth control is not a big issue, because it is still for some people, but you know, it's more widely talked about. You know, women having the right to not have to, like, our bodies are not a man's property. He can't just do what he wants when he wants. You know, we have some autonomy. We are able to make those decisions for ourselves. Those are things that are radical for 1700s.
Right. And then it really inflamed Lionel, because his wife was actually reading
listening.
and listening and
Yeah.
actually doing it.
She was like, I
So
don't have to
that
sleep with
ended up-
you. I am,
so
and I won't
Fergus
go to
could
sleep with you.
feel guilty about that. But
Yeah.
and I was interested to see, okay, Brianna, what kind of sketches do you have? What kind of ideas? I want to see those ideas.
Yeah, I think we will. I think we will.
So, and I like the conversation she had with mom. Like, you can't, it's okay. You know, people will get pissed off sometimes of the things that you do.
Yeah, but you
You
can't
got to be true to yourself and keep going.
And that's the one thing about Claire, because Claire's still going to be herself. She's still going to do what she needs to do. You know, her creating this ether, of course, they're probably going to be like, yeah, I don't want to do that. But just like it was when she was pulling teeth, you know, she was being a dentist and helping them, and she's teaching them about germs and bacteria. And they're looking at her like, this woman is weird, but she's trying to help save people. And that part of her is never going to change. No matter what they do, because even in the last episode, when Lionel Brown was sitting there on the table in her surgery and she grabbed that scalpel, she had to put that down and she was like, I will not do you any harm. And she had to walk out that room because she was getting ready to do something to him. She's not going to change that. That's the core part of her being. She's not going to change that no matter what happens to her, no matter what anybody does to her. Now, she does have an angel of vengeance over there on the other side of the bed who will take care of that for her. But yeah, that's one good thing I like about Claire, is that she is strong in that sense. Like, you know what? I know that this is unusual for the time, but this is who I am. I'm not changing myself for anybody. And Wendigo even says that to her when she was captured. He was like, you don't act like the women of this time. You need to act like the women of this time. You need to act more afraid. And Claire's like, nope.
No. Because you will be dead in the morning. Basically, that's what she told him a few times. You will be dead in the morning.
Bam.
And they were dead in the morning. So she instilling that into Brianna. You got to keep going, honey. You can't just hold yourself back because you worry. We do know that we're not going to change major parts of history. We do know that, but we can still do a little part in between.
Yeah. Make things a little bit better for these people. Yeah. Because these are people that they care about now. So they don't want to be just like, oh, okay, well, history says that all y'all die of the plague or dysentery or whatever the case may be. She's going to do what she has to do to save lives and to make things better. And if Brianna has the ability to do that as well, without causing too much attention towards herself, because if she does something that's a little too radical, that might be an issue, but as long as she can help, go for it.
Right. And Roger should open up a school too. Come on. I know you're teaching the young ones, but just get your elementary, middle school, high school, college on.
I think he's probably going to end up doing that, because it's obvious now that they're not going to go back, at least not now. I don't know if they're going to bring the daughter into the story at this point, because like I said, in the books, they have a daughter and she has a heart defect, which is why they have to go back to the future. And they end up doing that in the books. And I'm not sure if they ever go back, because I haven't gotten that far in the books. I'm assuming they do, but I don't know. So I don't know if they're going to actually bring that part of the story into it, because they've already tried to go back once. And that was not part of the original story. So don't know.
So, and then maybe next season, because now we have these other characters we really need to focus on and let them have their piece. And then they have their daughter, and that will be next season.
Yeah. So hopefully we do get that part of the story. But I'm pleased with what they've done for the first episode. I'm happy that we are getting extended episodes, especially since it's such a short season. We're only getting 6 episodes this season. So I'm glad that they're extended. Hopefully we can get a little bit more story out of these longer episodes, and it won't feel like, we won't feel that, oh my God, it's only 6 episodes. Hopefully it'll still feel like a regular size season with these extended episodes, and they're able to get the story done the way that I think they're going to get it done.
Instead of rushing, because we have seen that happen in other series that we have watched.
Right. So but the writing on this show has always been very consistent. They've done very well with the stuff that they have translated from book to screen, they've done very well. And then the stuff that they included that was not part of the story, they've done a really good job of integrating that, like the whole Myrta storyline, because Myrta didn't survive Culloden in the books. Mm-mm. So we just saw like memories of him in Jamie's head, or Jamie would have dreams of Myrta where Myrta was speaking to him through his dreams, but we didn't get an actual, relationship with this older Jamie. He didn't get to reunite with Claire. He never got to meet Brianna. So I like the way that they incorporated that. Oh, and then the whole him and Jocasta thing was absolutely not a thing.
That was a bonus.
But I loved that.
Yeah, I did too.
In the show. So they've been pretty consistent with their writing and keeping things great and keeping the storylines flowing. They don't have a lot of mistakes with this show as far as, time jumps not making sense or storylines not making sense. They don't have a lot of that.
Yeah.
So,
and I'm thinking, no, they haven't. Mm-mm. And just even from all of us, I think we've been pleased with every season, all of the episodes. Mm-hmm. So
I haven't had any complaints.
No, I haven't either. So. And I really haven't heard of, even just reading about the different seasons, haven't even heard about any complaints.
I've seen some, but they're also from people who are the book purists, right, who want everything to happen exactly the way it happened in the book. And again, when you're translating from book to visual media, that's not always going to be the case. Mm-mm. So you take the good parts of the story and you translate it, and then you may have to make some adjustments. You may have to make some changes. For the most part, they've done a great job of that. I can name some other shows where I feel like Shadowhunters, where they didn't do that. So, like I said, hopefully we'll get, hopefully they'll stick the landing, as Lori likes to say, on this season and with the storylines, especially with the Christies, since they've introduced them, since we are seeing a little bit more of the bugs. I'm thinking that they're bringing that part of the story in. I'm excited to see what they're going to do with that. The whole Lizzie situation, I'm ready for that, because that's going to be hilarious. That's going to be hilarious.
I can't wait for that.
Yeah, I can't either. So this was a good episode, and I'm looking forward to seeing what they do for the second episode. I think the second episode, I think, is like 79 minutes. So it's another supersized episode. So
do you know the title of the second one? This one was Echoes.
I think this one is, let's see, because I was just on Stars.
And so episode 1 was Echoes. Mm-hmm. And I wonder what episode 2 is.
Episode 2 is Allegiance.
Okay.
And the description is: Jamie struggles with his first request as Indian agent. Roger presides over an unusual funeral. Marsali gives birth. However, the joy is short-lived when a discovery is made. So this is going to be Henri Christian.
This is the episode. Okay.
Yes, it is. So
okay,
that's what we are getting in the next episode. I look forward to discussing that. But for now, that's it for our show. You can find us online at www.fandomhybrid.com. We are on social media on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Fandom Hybrid. You can watch our videos at YouTube and listen to us on all major podcast streaming platforms. Thanks for listening. We hope you join the conversation next time.